Good morning. It's a beautiful Monday morning and we're back once again with a fresh start of the week. We'll present to you breakfast news. I'm Preeti. With me is Rukma. And as we step ahead into a new week, a fresh beginning, it's a Monday morning today. Let's start this with a beautiful thought by Gautam Buddha. He says, what you think you become, what you feel you attract, and what you imagine you create. So remember, it's all in your mindset. It's the positivity, the optimism, it's all in your mindset. Make sure that your thoughts are positive, your thoughts are optimistic, and that is a way that will lead you ahead all through your day and for good things and successful things ahead.
Right, as Preeti just said, it's all in the mind, in the thoughts that we think. It's Armed Forces Flag Day today. We salute our soldiers, also spare a thought and do whatever little you may be able to for war widows and those disabled soldiers and ex-servicemen and how it's possible. Over the next 1 hour on Breakfast News, we'll be bringing you all the top stories of the day, also mostly highlighting the inauguration of the Agra Metro, its impact on tourism, and going into detail on those factors as well. Good news on the COVID front, also news from sports and the web as well. But first, here are the headlines.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi to inaugurate the construction of Agra Metro project today via video conferencing. The project, with a total length of 29.4 kilometers, will connect major tourist attractions like Taj Mahal, Agra Fort, Sikandra Fort with railway stations and bus stands. The project will benefit 26 lakh population of the city and will also cater to more than 60 lakh tourists.
Serum Institute of India, Pune applies to Drugs Controller General of India seeking emergency use authorization for Oxford AstraZeneca COVID vaccine in the country. AstraZeneca is the second vaccine in front of DCGI, seeking emergency use approval following Pfizer vaccine.
India makes progress in its fight against COVID-19. Number of active cases fall. Total cases at 4.03 lakh, the lowest in more than 4 months. Recovery rate further improves to 94.37%. Daily cases in.
Nation observes Armed Forces Flag Day today to honor the valor, sacrifice and services of our soldiers.
Fourth phase polling of DDC elections in Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir today. 34 constituencies go to booth in the fourth phase. 249 candidates, including 82 female candidates in the fray.
In news from the northeast, elections of the first phase to Bodoland Territorial Council today. 10 constituencies in Udalguri, 11 in Buxar go to polls. In the first phase, administration gears up to conduct elections following COVID protocols.
In international news, British negotiators hold talks with the European Union in Brussels to strike a Brexit trade deal. The talks are last attempt to bridge significant differences and avoid a chaotic parting of ways for Britain and European Union.
In sports, Indian racer Jehan Daruwala creates history, becoming first Indian to win Formula 2 race. 22-year-old finishes top in the Sakir Grand Prix Formula 2 race.
Alright, those are the top stories we're tracking this hour. Up next, we'll get you the national headlines first.
And in our top story, Agra, the land of the Taj, will soon be getting a metro rail. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate the construction work on the Agra Metro Rail project today. It will take 5 years to build and cost nearly 8,400 crore rupees.
The city of love, Agra, is developing into a smart city. Residents of this world-famous tourist destination will soon be connected by metro rail, providing them with relief from traffic jams and giving foreign tourists quality modern infrastructure, a convenience that is likely to add to their already large numbers. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will inaugurate the construction of the Agra Metro project on the 7th of December 2020 at 12 noon via video conference. Union Minister of Housing and Urban Affairs Hardeep Singh Puri, Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh Yogi Adityanath and other dignitaries will attend the event at the 15 Battalion PAC Parade Ground in Agra.
आगरा मेट्रो रेल परियोजना का जो निर्माण कार्य है उसका शुभारंभ होने जा रहा है अब, और ये भारत सरकार और केंद्र सरकार द्वारा अनुमोदित एक परियोजना है जिसका हमको अप्रूवल मिला है भारत सरकार से, और फाइनली इस प्रोजेक्ट को अब हम एग्जीक्यूट करने जा रहे हैं जो 8,379 करोड़ की है। मेट्रो का जो टोटल कंस्ट्रक्शन पीरियड है वो 5 इयर्स है, जब स्टार्ट होगा तो उससे 5 साल लगेंगे। और इस पहले कॉरिडोर में बिकॉज 7 अंडरग्राउंड स्टेशन है जो बहुत कंजस्टेड एरिया से हैं, प्लस हिस्टोरिकल मोनूमेंट्स हैं उन एरियाज़ में, तो जिनसे हम उनके रेगुलेटेड एरिया से निकलेंगे।
The Agra Metro project comprises 2 corridors with a total length of 29.4 kilometers. It connects major tourist attractions like the Taj Mahal, Agra Fort and Sikandra with railway stations and bus stands. The project will benefit 26 lakh population of the city of Agra and will also cater to more than 60 lakh tourists who visit Agra every year. It will provide an environment-friendly mass rapid transport system to the historic city of Agra. The estimated cost of the project will be 8,379.62 crore rupees, which will be completed in 5 years. With inputs from Sajan Sagar and Rajesh Raj, DD India.
To talk more about it, our correspondent Arun is joining us. Arun, when we talk of the land of the Taj there, we will have another feather in the cap for the city. The metro rail services will be inaugurated by the Prime Minister. We've given a broad outline of how important is it for the region. You talk more about it.
Good morning, Preeti. Good morning, Rukma. It's an important day indeed for the people of Agra. We know this fact that Prime Minister Narendra Modi, will be inaugurating this construction work for the Agra project. Why it is important? Because number one, it will provide ease of living to the people of Agra. Second, importantly, this project, if you look at this project, this will be part of the multi-modal integration project, because this metro services will be connecting to the railway services and of course the bus or the BRTS system. So it will be a kind of an integration or an extension to the railway services and of course the BRTS or the bus services or the bus station over there, because it is connecting those two important and prominent places. When we talk about the cost of the project, we know this fact that it's 8,400 crore rupees of project as far as the metro services are concerned. But importantly, there will be close to 27 stations as well in this metro rail projects, and there'll be elevated corridors as well, and there will be underground corridors as well. That means it ensures that the congestion in the city will also get relief, because we know this fact that when we talk about the Rajamandi station area, near Sikandra, the Taj area, all these are the areas whenever any tourists visit these places, they have to face a lot of congestion in the city, and of course this metro project will play an important role in removing the congestion in these cities. There are close to, more than dozen of cities in our country are having metro projects. But why Agra is important? Because we know this fact that close to 60 lakh tourists do come to visit Agra, and whenever any tourist is visiting Agra, at that point in time, it will play an important role in providing relief and ease to that commuter. And also importantly, in the vicinity of Agra, there are various connecting cities. Like for example, from people from Delhi also do visit Agra, so they can park their cars or vehicles in the bus stand or the railway station, and they can travel by metro as well. So it is going to provide very ease to the passengers and of course the tourists over there. And yes, it will attract more tourists as well. So yes, it's going to be a historic day for the people of Agra and of course for the Agra as well.
Right, a major boost to tourism while protecting the environment. That's what we are looking at as we are being told, Arun. And when we talk about employment, it's going to take a period of nearly 5 years. So that too will get a major boost here once work starts for every rung of, can we say, the labor chain.
Absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, that when we talk about the metro services, more than dozen cities in our country are having metro services, and metro not only provides direct jobs, it also provides indirect jobs as well. So when in the city of Agra, which is famous for Pethas, and of course which is famous for Taj Mahal as well, so a lot of indirect jobs will also be created as far as this city is concerned. But most importantly, as far as the city infrastructure is concerned, urban planning is concerned, as far as smart city management is concerned, it will be an important role in giving a major push to the smart city work or the urban planning work, because government as of now is focusing more as to how can better urban planning can be ensured. And whenever a metro city is planned or metro train is planned primarily, because of the metro train services, the urban planning gets also a facelift in any of the city. So yes, apart from getting a major push to the tourism sector, the creation of jobs will be ensured with this metro projects. Direct and indirect jobs. Last but not the least, tourism will also get increased, and more and more tourists will be attracted towards going to Agra, because the time will be saved very much. Because most of the time, what was happening that when you travel from Rajamandi station or any of the bus stations or the railway stations towards Agra, towards the Taj Mahal, the important is that you were stuck, or you were bound to stuck in the traffic jams in Agra, because the congestion used to be very much high. But now you'll be saving time as well, and of course the fuel will also be saved. So all in all, it's a great infrastructure project as far as the urban development and city planning is concerned. And in that context only, Rukma, yes, job creation is one of the important aspects. But other than that, infrastructure boost will also be given to the city of Agra as well.
All right, Arun. So Agra all set for the makeover. The construction will though take 5 years, but then eventually it will be for the good of the people there and the city. Thank you so much for joining us and getting us those inputs. So that was our correspondent Arun joining us and letting us know more about the program ahead. The Prime Minister today will inaugurate the metro rail services in Agra. We'll keep you updated. Meanwhile, let's get to other news now. The Serum Institute of India becomes the first indigenous company to apply to the Drugs Controller General of India seeking emergency use authorization for Oxford COVID-19 vaccine in the country, citing unmet medical needs due to the pandemic and in the interest of the public at large. A day earlier, the Indian arm of the US pharmaceutical giant Pfizer became the first to seek a similar approval from India's drug regulator for its own COVID-19 vaccine in the country after securing such clearance in the UK and Bahrain. The phase 3 clinical trial of the Oxford COVID-19 vaccine Covishield is being conducted by Pune-based institute, co-sponsored by the Indian Council of Medical Research, that is ICMR, in various parts of the country, in addition to clinical studies being carried out by Oxford AstraZeneca in the United Kingdom and Brazil. Based on phase 2 and 3 clinical trial results, the institute, with the help of ICMR, will pursue early availability of the vaccine for India, the country's apex health research body had said last month.
So good news on the vaccine front, and joining us now is our correspondent Tapas Bhattacharya to give us more details, more information regarding the application of two bodies who are seeking emergency authorization of vaccines in India. Tapas, give us more details. When did this happen and what can we expect? What is the process that will be undertaken now?
In fact, if you take a close look at the way Serum Institute were earlier, talking about, in fact, when Prime Minister Modi went to Serum Institute in Pune in their laboratory, after that they made a comment that after in a couple of weeks' time they will be applying for emergency usage. And they were actually talking about the internal process was on the way, and yesterday they have applied for an emergency usage. Remember, Serum Institute becomes the first indigenous, Indian company, in fact, to apply for that. Earlier, Pfizer has applied for it, but Pfizer's drug and Moderna's drug, it doesn't seem that they will be coming to India pretty soon. But Serum Institute has already started manufacturing the dosage, and if everything goes by book, it seems that maybe by the end of the year or at the start of the next year, some dosage will be available to to India for this particular vaccine. As we speak about that, also when we talk about the Pfizer vaccine, it requires a huge cold chain facility, and as of now, they have not approached the Indian government. In fact, there is no as such there's no report as such that they will be coming to India for their vaccine. But this particular vaccine of Oxford AstraZeneca, that the Serum Institute is going to produce in bulk. Remember, Serum Institute is the highest vaccine manufacturing company in the world by dosage. So if there is one company which can prepare a vaccine in bulk, this is Serum Institute of India, and this Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine is expected to hit the Indian market very soon, and that will be a good news for all those people who are struggling for this for coronavirus.
All right, Tapas, AstraZeneca is seeking emergency use approval, but then also I would want you to put forth for us what are the parameters for the DCGI to approve a vaccine candidate, because apart from taking the long-term effects or for that matter side effects onto the people who've been given the trial, what are the other parameters which have to be considered?
You see, there are the dosage that the Covishield has come out with, the efficacy, the report after the phase 3 trial, the interim report that came out after that expects the efficacy of the vaccine nearly 60 to 70%. Though they have they agree that there is a slight issue with the dosage, and they are going to come up with another report. What exactly needs to be done, because in their particular trial and in their particular understanding, some sort of confusion happened. But as of now, what they said is that as per ICMR as well as from the SII, 60 to 70% is the efficacy of its dosage. Although if the dosage is put in a half and increase to its original dosage in people, then apparently it increases to almost 90%. But that is a different matter altogether. That needs to be worked out more, and more research needs to be done on that. But as of now, the placebo report as well as the efficacy result pegs the vaccine at 60 to 70% efficacy, and that is where the SII actually approached the DGCI in a way for an emergency. Remember, if you take a close look at the vaccine, the way vaccines develop, it generally takes 5 to 10 years. But because of the situation that is currently in the world, this emergency usage, they have asked for an emergency usage, keeping in mind the phase 3 clinical trials, and they have given the data to the DGCI to understand and to go about that. It will be up to the Health Ministry, it will be up to the DGCI to go through there, and if there are any discrepancies they found, they will go back to them. But as of now, it seems that the SII's vaccine is the only candidate to provide what you call a vaccine for the coronavirus.
Well, thank you so much, Tapas, for joining us there. You keep your eyes on that story. Definitely very positive news after a long time on the COVID pandemic front. Meanwhile, Pfizer has become the first pharmaceutical company to ask the Drugs Controller General of India for emergency use authorization for its vaccine in India. If approved, this vaccine will be the first to become available here. We tell you more in this report.
The nation's battle against COVID-19 keeps gaining ground. More and more good news is also coming in on the vaccine front. The PM himself has said a vaccine would be available in India in a matter of weeks. The latest is that the first vaccine to become available in the country could be the one developed by Pfizer. Pfizer India has sought clearance for emergency use of its COVID vaccine from the Drug Controller General of India. Pfizer India wrote to the DCGI on the 4th of this month seeking the clearance. Its parent company has already got the permission in Britain and vaccination will be initiated there next week. If Pfizer India gets the DCGI's nod, it will become the first vaccine to be available in the country. Vaccine development and testing is on at a furious pace in India, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself is monitoring it. He travelled to 3 cities to track all the latest developments, engaging with scientists and officials. State governments are also preparing ground for mass vaccination. Meanwhile, the number of active cases in the country are constantly declining due to the collective efforts of the centre, state governments and other stakeholders. The country has 4,03,248 active COVID-19 cases now. This is the lowest number of active cases in 138 days. The number was 4,02,529 as far back as the 21st of July. The proportion of active cases now is 4.18% of the total infection so far. 36,011 new cases have been confirmed in the last 24 hours. 41,970 infected patients have recovered during the same period. As a result, the recovery rate has climbed further to 94.37%. The number of recovered patients has gone beyond 91 lakh. The difference between active number of cases and recovered patients is also around 87 lakh. Progress on the COVID battlefront has been made due to the dogged pursuit of the centre and state governments along with all stakeholders to trace, test and treat all cases. A testimony to this effort is that till the 5th of this month, a total of 4,69,86,575 COVID samples had been tested. On the 5th of December alone, the number of samples tested was 11,01,063. With Nitendra Singh in Delhi, DD India.
The Indian Armed Forces Flag Day is being observed today since 1949. It is a day to honour the soldiers, airmen and sailors of India who fought on the borders to safeguard the country. On Indian Armed Forces Flag Day, funds are collected for welfare of war widows, children of martyrs, war-disabled soldiers and ex-servicemen. The Armed Forces Flag Day Fund is used for welfare of armed forces personnel. The fund collected on the Flag Day is also used for welfare of serving personnel and ex-servicemen and also to rehabilitate battle casualties. Small flags are also distributed on this day in return for donations. A variety of programs are organized by the Indian Army, the Indian Air Force and the Indian Navy to showcase their efforts towards national security.
And voting for Phase 4 of the District Development Council polls are taking place in Jammu and Kashmir. They began a short while back. My colleague Rama Tyagi gets you more from Srinagar.
Going DDC polls, 34 constituencies, 17 each from Jammu and Kashmir division, will go to the polls on Monday. Along with this, by-polls to 50 vacant Sarpanch seats and 216 vacant Panch seats falling within these DDC constituencies will also be conducted in this phase. There are 138 candidates in the fray in Kashmir, while in Jammu division there are 111 candidates. In the fourth phase, 7,17,322 electors are eligible to cast their votes. There are 1,910 polling stations set up across the Union Territory for this phase. Out of these 1,910 polling stations, there shall be poll for Sarpanch vacancies in 212 stations and Panch vacancies in 219 polling stations, along with the DDC polls. Administration is confident of a peaceful polling process.
सबका जो है बिल्कुल एक्सटेंसिव ट्रेनिंग्स हो चुकी हैं फेज वाइज सबकी and they are all मतलब set and all go for polls. All zonal magistrates हैं हमारे जो they have been brought, QRTs are there, SHOs of different जो places हैं, they are on job. I don't think any कोई problem है इस हमारे SSP साहब he is here with us, DIG साहब हमारे हैं वो he is here with us. तो DIG CRPF I am telling, SSB people they are here. तो almost it is to the extent of fool proof हम कह सकते हैं whatever best possible humanly है वो सारा इंतजाम हो चुका है.
हमको बताया गया कि हमको वक्त कैसे इस्तेमाल करना है, कैसे वोटर कैसे आएगा, उसको कैसे वोट कराना है, कैसे चुनाव कराना है, सब कुछ दिखाते हैं, कोविड के लिए भी उन्होंने किट भी दिया है, उसके लिए भी हम पूरी तरह तैयार हैं.
हमें ट्रेनिंग दिया है कि बराबर कैसे वोट डालना होता है, कैसे फिलअप करना है, फॉर्म उसके कैसे फिलअप करना है, तो वही दिखाते हैं हम.
Polling will be conducted on the 7th of December from 7 am to 2 pm. All arrangements for this phase are in place, including manpower, election material and security arrangements in all poll-going areas. With inputs from Ramat Tyagi, DD India.
All right, to talk more about it, our correspondent Ramesh Raina is joining us. Ramesh, voting for Phase 4 of the District Development Council polls is taking place today. Earlier when we talked to you, you've seen how impressive has been the turnout in the last 3 phases. I would want you to tell us more specifically about this Phase 4 of the polling today and, how has the day begun there?
Good morning, ma'am. Firstly, the polling began at 7 in the morning and like earlier phases, the voters, they are in their booths, they are coming out and they are exercising franchise. And I may tell you about this phase today. There are 2 former ministers. They are in the fray. One is from Doda district and another is from Rajouri district. So this indicates the significance and importance of these elections. And so people, they are coming out in large numbers. And what I have seen, one polling booth, people, irrespective of their that age, their physical condition, their age, it wasn't deterring them to come out and cast their votes. So people were coming out in large numbers, and what I saw there that women outnumbered males in some polling stations. So there is huge enthusiasm among the voters to exercise their franchise. Preeti.
Right, Ramesh ji. And when we talk, clearly people very enthusiastic for the democratic process as it resumes after so many years. Also, the enlargement of the voter eligibility of voters, more and more voters in the fray, casting their vote this time. When we talk about the efforts of the Election Commission, what would you say that, the efforts that they have put in? Also, development, it appears, from all that we have seen and from the reports that we have received, it appears to be the one single most issue on the voters' minds.
Exactly, Rukma. So far as Election Commission is concerned, it has made all the arrangements, what it could do. See, security is there, is multi-layer security is there. And since these elections are being held in this COVID pandemic, so what Election Commission has done, it has approached Health Department, and they have set up their desks there. They have deployed their ASHA workers there. They have put up sanitizers there. They have put up masks there, and the thermal scanning is being done there. So whenever any voter is coming to exercise his franchise or her franchise, he or she is being properly sanitized, and if he or she is not having a mask, they are being provided masks, and their temperature is noted down. Okay. And so far as that voters coming out in large number is concerned, they see, since these district development council elections are being held for the first time in the history of J&K state, erstwhile J&K state, and what people see this as an opportunity to elect their representatives, because in the earlier phase, when we talked to some voters that why they are coming out to exercise this franchise, what is the significance of these elections, but they have been saying that they have been electing for years MPs and MLAs, and we were hoping that there will be development in their areas, but it has not been done so far. So they believe that the representatives which they are electing, it will be one. It is a one among them who is aware about their problems and the difficulties and developmental issues, and they believe that they can easily approach to him or her,
yes,
and so to get their issues solved. So development is the main issue, because there are basic needs, basic amenities which people want, like playgrounds, like lanes, drains,
yes,
and roads, drinking water.
So it's basic infrastructure.
These are the basic issues.
Yes.
Yes.
All
yes.
right, Mr. Ramesh, thank you so much for joining us with those inputs this morning. We'll come back to you again during the day. So that was our correspondent spelling out more details on the 4th phase of DDC polls, which are happening today in Jammu and Kashmir. We'll keep you updated. From here, we'll go across now to the 1st phase of Bodoland Territorial Council polls that are beginning today. 10 constituencies in Udalguri and 11 in Buxa will go to polls in the 1st phase of Bodoland Territorial Council elections, in which 132 candidates are in the fray, out of which 60 candidates are from Udalguri. The administration of Udalguri and Buxa districts have geared up fully to ensure smooth, free and fair elections following all the COVID protocols. The polling personnel are being provided with mask, face shield and sanitizers, and each voter will have to undergo thermal screening. Security has been tightened to ensure peaceful conduct of the polls. In the second phase on December 10th, 2 BTAD districts, namely Kokrajhar and Chirang, will go to polls. A total of 23,82,036 voters, including 11,79,020 women, will exercise their franchise in both the first and the second phases of the polls to the 40-member council. The main electoral battle is between BPF, BJP and UPPL. Now, BPF, led by Hagrama Mohilari, is seeking to retain power for the fourth consecutive term.
And Agriculture Minister Narendra Singh Tomar has asserted that Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government is fully committed to the interest of farmers and will remain so in the future. He said the government is ready to hold talks with farmers to resolve their issues. He had earlier assured 40 farmer union leaders that the government is open to considering ways to strengthen Agricultural Produce Market Committee, that's the APMC mandis, and create a level playing field with proposed private markets. Narendra Singh Tomar further said the government will provide a provision for approaching higher courts for dispute resolution, while asserting that procurement at minimum support price (MSP) will continue. He reiterated that farmers should keep faith in the Narendra Modi government, that whatever will be done, it will be in the interest of farmers. He also thanked farmer unions for maintaining discipline while protesting. The centre will hold its 6th round of talks with farmer unions in New Delhi on Wednesday to end the deadlock over the new farm laws. The 5th round of talks were held yesterday with Agriculture Minister Narendra Singh Tomar reassuring farmer unions that the system of minimum support price will continue and there is no threat to it. He also said the government has worked out possible solutions to provisions on which farm leaders have raised objections. He reassured that the Narendra Modi government is fully committed to the interest of farmers and will remain so always. He expressed hope that farmer protests will end at the earliest. The government has said it is open to considering ways to strengthen Agricultural Produce Market Committee mandis and create a level playing field with proposed private markets.
The schemes of the central government are proving to be blessing for the farmers, in which an FPO centre is directly helping them. The farmers are having direct benefits as well as double profit. Up next, we'll take a look at this detailed report.
Schemes brought in by the centre are proving to be a boon for the farmers, in which the FPO centre is directly helping them. One such FPO Navchetna Agro Centre Shikhar Mirzapur is registering its major participation to help the net farmers. Farmer Machinery Bank has been given at 80% grant operated by the centre, in which the use of equipment is directly benefiting the farmers.
इस संस्था से जुड़ने से, इस ट्रैक्टर के आने से सर पैसा नहीं है, फिर भी जुताई हुआ, हमको बड़ा सुविधा मिला.
The organization is helping farmers in the sowing and ploughing of the fields, whether farmers have funds for that or not. With the efforts of this institution, the farmers were given a discount of 25% for the sowing and ploughing around 5 km distance of the field area. The farmers are benefited directly, as well as the profit has been doubled due to this step. Bureau Report, DD India.
And an interministerial central team deputed by the Union Home Ministry to assess the impact of Cyclone Nivar in Tamil Nadu and Puducherry began their tour of the affected areas in the region yesterday. The team, led by Joint Secretary Home Ashutosh Agnihotri, split into 2 groups, of which one visited rain-hit areas in South Chennai, Mamallapuram and Chengalpattu on Sunday. The team will visit Puducherry, Kudalore and Villupuram districts today, while the second group visited parts of North Chennai, Tiruvallur and Kanchipuram on Sunday and are due to cover Vellore and Tirupattur districts today. After a 2-day visit, both teams will hold discussions with state government officials in Chennai on Tuesday and later have a debriefing session with the Chief Minister. The interministerial team will return to Delhi on Tuesday evening. Cyclone Nivar made landfall on the northern coast of Tamil Nadu between November 25th and 26th.
The 26th edition of the India-Portugal Technology Summit 2020 will be held over a digital platform from today. The Department of Science and Technology, with Confederation of Indian Industry, that is CII, announced the 26th edition of Technology Summit 2020 on Tuesday. The summit will witness signing of 7 MOUs and agreements which will increase bilateral trade between two countries. Both organizations have planned to structure their cooperation in sectors such as water, healthcare, agriculture, IT and ICT, clean technologies, etc. Both the governments are poised to support the development of scientific and technological cooperation between Indian and Portuguese researchers and to strengthen the scientific partnership between research groups from each country by establishing bilateral research networks, enhancing research cooperation and promoting the exchange of knowledge between Indian and Portuguese scientists.
The Ambassador of France to India, His Excellency Emmanuel Lenain, will pay an official 2-day visit to Chennai today, aimed at strengthening cooperation between France and Tamil Nadu, particularly in the economic field. France shares a close and long-standing relationship with Tamil Nadu, which includes deep cultural and people-to-people ties, in particular between the state and France's Reunion Island. Moreover, owing to its manufacturing and innovation-oriented ecosystem, Tamil Nadu, especially Chennai, has emerged as a hub of French business and investments in India. Tamil Nadu is home to more than 140 French companies and attracts a significant share of all French investments in India. French companies are present in many priority sectors such as automotive, healthcare, industry, digital technologies, services or energy. Despite the pandemic, they have continued investing in Tamil Nadu with significant projects such as NG's 250 megawatt wind power plant in Tuticorin and Total's new LPG plant in Coimbatore. To reflect this growing partnership, France had decided in 2017 to open a Bureau de France in Chennai, the mission of which is to boost cooperation, exchanges and mobility, including that of students between France and Tamil Nadu. During this visit, Ambassador Lenain is likely to meet Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, Payani-Sami, and the talks will focus on how France and French companies can continue contributing to Tamil Nadu's ambitious development goals in areas of industry, R&D and renewable energy. Ambassador Lenain will also highlight significant business opportunities for Indian companies wishing to invest in France, particularly in La Reunion Island.
International Civil Aviation Day is being observed across the world today. The day is being commemorated to generate and reinforce worldwide awareness of the importance of international civil aviation to the social and economic development of the states. The day helps the states to cooperate and realize a truly global rapid transit network at the service of all mankind. The day generates and leverages global awareness about international civil aviation. International Civil Aviation Organization, the Global Forum for Civil Aviation, organizes various activities and events, including several seminars, educational sessions about the International Civil Aviation Day.
And now, well, we bring you news, the latest COVID tally, for example, from across the world, also COVID news, where there's a lot of positivity now, also news, the latest developments in space exploration. Watch across the globe. And beginning with an update on the COVID pandemic from across the world, as of now, more than 6.73 lakh coronavirus cases have been reported worldwide, with over 15,41,000 deaths. Over 4.65 lakh people have recovered from the virus. The United States continues to top the list among worst hit countries by the pandemic so far, with the highest number of infections. The US has recorded over 1.51 lakh cases, with a death toll surging past 2,88,000.
The United States remains the worst hit country by the pandemic all across the world. Deaths from COVID-19 in the United States surpassed 2,80,000, with the national caseload topping 15.15 million. Several states of the country continue to remain under lockdown. The U.S. state of California reported over 25,000 new confirmed cases. The vast region of California has entered a new stay-at-home order on Sunday night, as its many parts have hit the 15% or lower threshold for intensive care unit capacity. amidst COVID-19 resurgence. Meanwhile, the US shopping rush, normally seen in the typical shopping season, is no longer visible this year amidst the continued surge in COVID-19 cases in the country. The increasing COVID-19 confirmed cases have turned many consumers away at the door of the stores. To control the recent surge in cases, Los Angeles County, the most populous county in the US, has issued new restrictions to allow non-essential businesses like retail stores to operate at only 20% capacity, leading to longer wait times outside many stores. A record 1,01,487 COVID-19 patients were in the US hospitals on Sunday, underscoring the immense pressure on the nation's hospitals and healthcare workers. Already stretched thin, experts and healthcare workers fear that things will only get worse with potential surge of infections fueled by Thanksgiving travel and gatherings. December has brought the highest hospitalization numbers in the US since the pandemic began, as the virus continues to spread like wildfire. It took almost 100 days for the US to reach 1 million COVID-19 infections after the first cases were confirmed on January 20th.
And Britain is preparing to become the first country to roll out the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine this week, initially making the shot available at hospitals before distributing stocks to doctors' clinics, as informed by the government. The first doses are set to be administered on Tuesday, with the National Health Service giving top priority to vaccinating over 80s frontline healthcare workers and care home staff and residents. In total, Britain has ordered 40 million doses. As each person requires 2 doses, that is enough to vaccinate 20 million people in the country of 67 million. Nearly 8 lakh doses are expected to be available within the first week. Britain gave emergency use approval for the vaccine developed by Pfizer and BioNTech last week, jumping ahead in the global race to begin the most crucial mass inoculation program in history.
British negotiators were taking part in talks with the European Union in Brussels on Sunday in a last-ditch attempt to strike a Brexit trade deal and avert a chaotic parting of ways at the end of the year. The discussions were reportedly taking place at the European Commission headquarters. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen spoke on Saturday and instructed their teams to resume talks after they were paused a day earlier due to an impasse over 3 key issues. In a joint statement after their call, Johnson and Leyen said that no agreement was feasible if significant differences on fishing, fair competition and ways to solve future disputes were not resolved. On Sunday, an official with the bloc said that a new European Union and UK trade deal agreement will definitely not come together on Sunday night, saying that 3 most contentious issues remained unresolved. Since Britain formally left the European Union on January 31st, negotiators have missed a series of deadlines to reach a deal with the world's largest trading bloc before a status quo transition period ends on December 31st.
SpaceX launched a newer, bigger version of its Dragon supply ship to the International Space Station yesterday from Cape Canaveral, Florida. The launch marks the first time the company has 2 capsules in orbit at the same time. The Dragon, which is packed with Christmas treats and presents, should reach the space station today, joining the Dragon that delivered 4 astronauts last month. With NASA's Commercial Crew program officially underway, SpaceX expects to always have at least 1 Dragon capsule at the space station. SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket blasted off with the latest Dragon from NASA's Kennedy Space Center, where coronavirus precautions kept staff to a minimum. The first stage booster, making its 4th flight, landed on an ocean platform several minutes after the late morning liftoff. It was first used back in May this year for the first astronaut launch by Elon Musk's company.
Time now to get you web review, wherein our correspondent and a colleague joins us to get us all that what has been put forth in the social media platforms. And to get us that today morning, Tapas is joining us. Tapas, good morning. Let us know what headlines have you picked up for us through the media.
Good morning to Preeti and to Rukma, both of you. And yes, the first headline that we are taking, in fact, the first two headlines that we are taking are for both COVID-19 vaccine. In fact, Pfizer becomes the first Indian company, first company in India to seek an emergency use for its COVID-19 vaccine. And this is a headline for the Times of India. And the second news that is also from Sputnik vaccine trial. In fact, that is also from the Times of India. They say that 17 volunteers were given the Sputnik 5 vaccine in Pune. A total of 17 volunteers were administered the vaccine and as a part of its human clinical trial. So both these two news were because of the vaccine trials that we are tracking right now. And obviously, there's good news coming in from the Serum Institute yesterday night that they have also applied for the emergency use. So that is the first two news that we are covering. The third news that we are covering is Delhi records 2,706 new cases, and the most important part is that the positivity rate dips below 4%. In fact, this is the positivity rate on Thursday and Friday and Saturday had stood at almost 4.96%, 4.78%, and 4.2% respectively. And the relatively low number of fresh cases came out of the more than 73,000 tests that were done, including 32,023 RT-PCR cases which happened previously. So that is the third news that we are tracking. The fourth news is a news from the CPCB, the Central Pollution Control Board, that raises concern on pollution and the frothing in the Yamuna River and asking the Delhi government and other states to implement the effective sewage treatment plant. The CPCB, which monitors the water quality of Yamuna River and the drain discharge into the river, observed that the formation and increase in ammonia levels in river because in Yamuna because of the discharge of the untreated sewage, and the non-operation of existing sewage treatment plants are a cause of concern, and that is one of the reasons why the pollution level has increased manifold in Yamuna. Now, moving on to some international news, India and US are gearing up to actively share the maritime military intelligence through a recently concluded pact, even as New Delhi has linked the White Shipping Agreement with 21 countries to enhance the situational awareness in the Indian Ocean region. The bilateral pact, called the Maritime International Sharing Technical Arrangement, lays down the protocols for the exchange of intelligence in real time and will significantly enhance the level of cooperation between the two countries. So that was another story, the international story that we are tracking. The last but not the least story, that is the rise of Hardik Pandya. The social media was going gung-ho. They were absolutely ravishing praise on Hardik Pandya, who, because of his heroics, India clinched the T20 series, the second T20 match that India steal, and he's dubbed as the new finisher for the team. Remember, India won the second T20 match by a 6-wicket margin, and one has to keep in mind that they have lost the first. They have in fact lost the ODI series, and they bounced back strongly, riding on Hardik Pandya as a finisher. And this augurs well for India when they will be hosting the 2021 T20 World Cup in back home. Preeti, back to you.
All right, Tapas, thank you so much for joining us with that web review. So that was our correspondent Tapas joining us with all the headlines which have been published in various web portals on the social media.
And now in our next segment, all the news, in fact, well, we are focusing on one special news story in our sports section, Sports Track.
Promising Indian driver Jehan Daruvala created history when he became the first Indian to win a Formula 2 race during the Sakhir Grand Prix in Bahrain on Sunday. A thrilling battle against F2 champion Mick Schumacher and Daniel Ticktum saw the 22-year-old Indian emerge on top in the support race of the season-ending Formula 1 Grand Prix. Jehan, driving for Rayo Racing, had a good launch from the second on the grid and was up alongside pole sitter Daniel Ticktum. Eventually, with less than 10 laps to go, Jehan made another fantastic move to get past Ticktum and grab the lead. Thereafter, Jehan drove well to slowly start, opening up a gap, and finally took the checkered flag to win his maiden FIA Formula 2 race.
And now time for our next segment, in which we give you one health tip that will help you to live that much fitter, that much better in a health segment. There's a constant increase in hospitalizations and mortality during the winter months due to respiratory infections. In this report, we try to understand what precautions can help prevent respiratory issues in this weather. Take a look.
The dip in temperatures affect the respiratory system and causes a marginal spurt in viral and respiratory ailments. Exposure to cold is associated with increased incidence and severity of respiratory tract infections. The risk of respiratory problems tends to rise during winter months. The symptoms may flare up in those already suffering from respiratory illnesses.
During the winter season, one of the greatest hurdles that we face, and that is globally, is the effect of pollution and its impact on the respiratory system. The cold air itself will also lead to problems for those who are suffering from respiratory diseases like chronic bronchitis and asthma. And we find that these diseases are on the rise whenever the weather tends to become colder. The other component, of course, with cold weather is that there are certain infections like pneumonia, influenza, which again become more common, and this is more so in the elderly population. And hence, you see, we suggest that this population takes vaccination against these particular diseases.
Winter season is a difficult part of the year for patients with chronic respiratory diseases, and inhalation of cold air has negative effect on the lungs of people with respiratory diseases. It is essential to take appropriate treatment if the symptoms occur and consult a specialist to prevent worsening of the problem.
One of the earliest symptoms that we get is cough. Dry cough, the person comes, and then in due course, if that is not taken care of, the infection or the cough travels to the lungs, and then you get a productive cough, and then with that you may land up with pneumonia or breathing problems. And those who are suffering from bronchitis and asthma, this group of patients, their breathlessness increases, tightness in the chest increases. So these are some of the symptoms that will tell a patient that, well, I need immediate medical treatment. Problem is twofold. One is for people who are not having any disease, and the other is for people who are suffering from disease. But in general, I will say that it is advisable for those who are going out for morning walks that they should delay the moving out in the too early in the morning, when the temperature is very cold and the smog is there. They should go out more when the sun is out. That is the first thing that they should do. Secondly, of course, I will advise everyone to stop smoking and not to use fuel which will cause more of smoke.
Winters can be harsh for people suffering from COPD and asthma. Taking appropriate precautionary measures may reduce the risk of respiratory problems in the cold weather. Kiran Bhardwaj, DD News.
Alright, so that was the health tip of the day to make sure you keep yourself safe and warmed up during the winters. Up next, we'll get to the events which made this day special in history.
On this day in 1902, Janardhan Gyanoba Navle, a cricketer, India's first test wicketkeeper, was born at Pulgaon, Maharashtra. He played against England at Lord's in 1932. This day in the year 1949, Armed Forces Flag Day was observed. The primary idea behind the Indian Armed Forces Day was to distribute small flags to the civilians and collect donations for the soldiers in return. On this day in 1972, Apollo 17 US crewed spaceflight to the moon was launched. It was the final flight of the Apollo program, and Apollo 17 astronauts Eugene Cernan and Harrison Schmitt were the last humans to walk on the moon. This day in the year 1975, Indonesia invaded East Timor 9 days after the Timorese political party Fretilin claimed independence. Some 600,000 were left dead after a prolonged war. On this day in 1995, communication satellite INSAT-2C was launched from French Guiana via Ariane 4 launch vehicle with an aim to improve communication facilities in remote areas like Northeast and Andaman and Nicobar Islands.
Alright, up next we'll get you weather forecast.
Well, the map shows the weather as it has
North India will be struck with cold wintry conditions, and fog was witnessed in the national capital today morning, and temperatures are further to dip down. Also, when we talk of the isolated to heavy rainfall, this will be witnessed in the coastal areas.
As well as in the northeast, as the map shows, a dip in normal temperatures is being seen across the country, and snowfall in the upper reaches of the Himalayas as well.
And now we take a look at temperatures across major cities of the country.
Well, we've come to the end of this edition of Breakfast News, but as always, we leave you with glimpses to kickstart your day that much better. Today, we bring you these glimpses as the Christmas season is in the air. From Jerusalem's Bethlehem, a Christmas tree that was lit up outside the Church of Nativity. The giant tree was illuminated by hundreds of golden white bulbs as fireworks lit up the night sky, with carols filling the atmosphere with festive melodies. Take a look and enjoy, but first, a special message.
Yes, indeed, the Christmas festivities have already set in, remember, but still it is not the time to sit back and relax when we talk of the fight against COVID-19. We are still urging all our viewers to be part of the Mask Up India initiative. It's just a simple task. Wear a mask, but wear it correctly and properly. This is the best means to keep yourself and people around you safe against COVID-19. With that, we'll end this edition of Breakfast News here. Bye-bye.